Topping today's news, a man gunned down on the famous Cable Beach Strip today. We hear more on the government's plans for infrastructural works, and a number of men wanted for sexual assault faced the judge today. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Although we are only into the second month of the year, the country is already at 17 murders, with the latest homicide taking place in a relatively crime-free section of New Providence, and an unlikely victim. Cale Campbell with more on this story.
The alleged crime crisis looks to be spilling out of what police have called hotspot areas and into tourist ones. At least with this latest killing happening right on West Bay Street, just down the road from the Baha Mar Resort. Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Crystalline Skippings speaks with reporters concerning this latest murder, with the victim not even being Bahamian.
It was shortly after 8 this morning when our department was notified of a shooting at West Bay Street and Eaton Avenue. Police responded, and information thus far suggested that the victim was entering his vehicle when a silver Juke that was parked adjacent to his vehicle, a male exited that vehicle and opened fire on the victim, hitting him multiple times. The victim, in his quest to evade the suspect, ran onto West Bay Street, where he collapsed and succumbed as a result of the injuries received. I want to say that the due diligence of the officers and members of the public have assisted in us recovering that vehicle thus far. It was recovered on Munnings Drive, and so our investigation commenced into this latest homicide.
This latest murder makes this the 16th in the country for the year, as Chief Superintendent Skippings reveals the victim was a Dominican national believed to be in his mid-20s. Concerning whether criminality may be spilling into areas that aren't typically known for crime, Chief Superintendent Skippings says this.
As indicated, I'm here with Chief Superintendent Sabrina Porter, and she's doing a fabulous job in this area. She has her manpower on the ground. There's adequate patrols in the area. However, when instances like this come up, we sit back, we re-strategize our procedures of what we do, and so I can assure the residents of this community that you will see more police presence in the area to ensure that we minimize the occurrences of these particular incidents happening again in this particular district.
Now, when asked if there are concerns considering this latest murder happening in a tourist area with multiple hotels and resorts visible in the backdrop of the deceased corpse, Chief Superintendent Skippings says this.
We're always concerned where homicides happen, always concerned. Of course, it is a touristic destination, and I'm in a touristic area, and so there is some concerns for us. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to ensure that we beef up patrols in this particular area again to ensure this doesn't happen. I also want to say to those persons who committed this heinous act this morning, we will get you. And we will get you in the shortest possible time.
With the latest murder happening during the time of the day where some people are taking their children to school and just getting into their morning schedules, the police press liaison officer warned that justice will be swift. For JCN News, I'm Cale Campbell.
Thanks, Cale. Prosecutors charging 2 men today who they believe are responsible for 2 separate shooting incidents. 23-year-old Nehemiah Culmer appeared before Senior Magistrate Carolyn Volk Evans, being charged with the murder of 26-year-old Ishmael Forbes. The particulars are that on Friday, January 6, the deceased was standing outside his home on Lawson Street, Nassau Village, when he was approached and subsequently shot multiple times. Culmer was not required to enter a plea and was denied bail. He was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until he returned to court for the service of a voluntary bill of indictment on April 14th. The second man charged in the magistrate's court was 47-year-old Lawrence Russell. The accused is said to be responsible for the shooting death of Theophilus Nairn. The incident reportedly occurred shortly before noon on Thursday, January 26. Preliminary reports reveal the victim was in the area of his residence when he was approached by a male known to him and subsequently shot. Russell was not required to enter a plea. He was also denied denied bail and remanded to B-Docks until May 17th, when he will return to court for his service of a voluntary bill of indictment. In recent weeks, there have been concerns about the new requirements needed to obtain business licenses and renewals for the department or from the Department of Inland Revenue. Some of the new requirements include proof of income and tenants' real property tax assessment numbers, which business owners say is causing lengthy delays. During the weekly press briefing at the office of the Prime Minister on Thursday, Minister of Economic Affairs, Senator Michael Halkitis, admitted that in excess of 33,000 business license applications have been received and only some 3,000 have been processed and approved so far. He says the reason for the new requirements is because businesses have been underreporting their revenue.
As you may know, businesses that report a turnover of $100,000 or less are not required to pay a business license, and so they pay nothing. But what we have found is that of all the applications we have, just under half, 47%, are either reporting zero turnover or turnover exactly the same for the last 3 years. And so what the department has determined is that they require additional information to verify these reports. Not all of these businesses are being required to provide income statements. I think that has been reported somewhere that, all these businesses are being required to provide income statements. They'll be required to provide some additional information so that the Department of Inland Revenue is in a position to verify their turnover.
The Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, the BCCEC, was also voicing their concerns about the requirements to supply the Department of Inland Revenue with a real property tax assessment number, even if a business is renting. Minister Halkitis says Inland Revenue is not asking business owners to be concerned if their landlord is paying their taxes. They are just asking for assistance.
What we are asking businesses to do when they renew is, if they have an assessment number, please provide it to us. If they don't have an assessment number, what we ask them to do is provide us with the name of their landlord and the location of their business. This does two things. It assists us in making sure that all commercial properties are on the property tax roll, and it also assists the business license department to verify that the business is still in the location that it had registered in previously.
Mr. Halkitis says in an effort to assist the public, the department has fast-tracked certain licenses.
There are, people from the very small businesses to the very large businesses are now applying for either renewals or new business licenses. We have decided to fast-track a certain category of licenses. So your taxi drivers, straw vendors, roadside vendors, we've agreed to fast-track those. We've brought in some additional, or we've deployed additional employees to the Department of Inland Revenue to deal with this busy period, and as well those workers are working overtime. We agree that we should have more consistent communication with the public, and we undertake to do that. And we are looking to improve our customer service because we have had some issues and some complaints that we acknowledge those, and we undertake to improve that.
The Economic Affairs Minister says the Department of Inland Revenue is working tirelessly to get those business licenses out before the March 31st deadline. During a debate on the government's 2022-2023 fiscal strategy report, the parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Public Works and Utilities said when the PLP took office in 2021, they met a dire situation as it relates to public infrastructure. In this next report, we hear more on the government's plans to tackle many of these infrastructural issues. The South Beach Member of Parliament also revealed that construction has started on the new straw market at Fort Charlotte, with the redevelopment of Fort Fincastle's straw market also being prepared in time for the country's 50th independence celebration in July. Meanwhile, since the media tour with the Water and Sewage Corporation 3 months ago as they sought to address the water supply challenges on North and Central Eleuthera, much work has been done. Today, the Water and Sewage Corporation is back on Eleuthera, highlighting the major improvements and upgrades to the water tanks. General Manager at the Water and Sewage Corporation, Robert Deal, says there have been many improvements to the naval-based desalination plant that will add over 1 million gallons of water to Eleuthera's supply.
Firstly, starting with in the background, you see that we have installed the 500,000 gallon multi-tank. What that will do is assist us with increasing the amount of water we have stored on site, the storage capacity at this facility. And also just to the north of that, just beyond us, in very short order, we will start clearing at that location. We're going to be building a 1 million gallon storage tank. We expect those components to arrive sometime in late April, and that tank will be fully ready by summer. And so between now and summer, we expect to increase the storage capacity at this facility by an additional 1.5 million gallons.
Mr. Deal says that storage capacity is extremely important to the Water and Sewage Corporation as they strive to prepare for any outages in supply that may occur.
And why storage capacity is so important, it means that in the event that the desalination plant has any challenges, we will have water stored on site that we could supply the customers while we're rectifying those production issues. As you probably note in the background, we have some very old tanks here. They go back to the 1960s. While they have been refurbished several times, they now beyond the stage of their repairable life. And so it's time for us to decommission those and to improve the infrastructure here in Central Eleuthera, definitely. And that's what we are doing.
In addition to that, Mr. Deal says they are working closely with the desalination contractors to expand production capacity at that facility.
2 desalination units have arrived in Nassau last week. Those are presently being cleared by customs, and we expect that to be completed within the next day or two. Once that is done, those units will be shipped here to Eleuthera, and they will be connected and commissioned. We expect them to be commissioned by late April, and that will increase the production capacity at this facility by in the range of about 260,000 gallons per day. So presently we produce at this facility about 450,000 gallons per day, and once that expansion capacity is in place, this facility will be increased to 710,000 gallons per day to greatly improve as we mentioned, the reliability of our supply for our residents here in Central Eleuthera.
Mr. Deal says this improvement will affect residents in over 100 homes from Savannah Sound to Gregorytown, Eleuthera, providing them with continuous, reliable, potable water. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.